Yeah, hello and welcome. I'm happy that I have a guest here today, Nathan Oxenfeld, who is a certified Bates method teacher. We met on a vision conference in Germany in 2019. I want to hand over to Nathan. Maybe you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much, Franzisa. It's really nice to be here. It was really special to meet in person before the whole pandemic and everything when we could hang out together in Frankfurt. And yeah, it's been really cool to see you continue to pursue different avenues of healing and helping people and really incorporating the eyes and the vision too. So I anticipate that we're gonna chat about some interesting topics today around some of those things, and I'll be curious also to hear kind of what you've been up to and how you've been kind of customizing this approach for your people as well.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted because I think it's interesting for most people. Before you became a vision teacher, you improved your own vision. And maybe you want to tell us what was the starting point. I mean, today, most people don't know that it's possible to improve your eyesight naturally. There's so much skepticism about it, and many people just simply don't know. And how did you find out that it's possible to improve your vision? And how did you start your own vision journey?
Yeah, it all starts, from my own personal experience, which I think is really important for these teachings to come out of authenticity and personal experience. And in order for me to learn about natural vision improvement, I kind of had to get out of my normal sort of day-to-day routine. I was actually leaving the country and studying abroad in Iceland for a few months. And one of my other classmates in that study abroad program had just come from India, where he was at the School for Perfect Eyesight,
Oh,
where they
wow.
teach elements of the Bates method there in Pondicherry in India. And he was wearing pinhole glasses, and I just was really confused about what these black glasses on his face were with all these holes poked in them. So I asked him about them, and he proceeded to tell me about natural vision improvement, pinhole glasses, this ashram in India where they're healing people's eyesight. And it was all just like totally foreign to me, but I really kind of, it hit me at the right time in my life where I was really starting to learn more about yoga and healing naturally. So I was really curious, but a little skeptical because this is the first person who had ever said anything about this to me. And so it was this interesting opportunity. I was about to be out of the country for 3 months. I didn't have to drive a car. I didn't really have to do the traditional, go to class and things. It really gave me an opportunity to actually take my glasses off for the first time. Actually, that was like the last day I had ever wore contacts. I had contacts in when I had that conversation with him.
Wow.
And he was like, oh, well, if you want to do this with me, you're going to have to use your glasses instead of contacts so you can actually take them off and put them back on when you need them. And I never wore contacts again after that. I switched back to glasses so I could have that flexibility. And he showed me some of the basics. He showed me how to sun my eyes, how to palm my eyes, how to do the swinging practice. And even just within 3 months of doing like little tiny things here and there, I got back to America and needed a lower strength pair of glasses. So I had already gotten measurable improvement in 3 months, but I was still significantly myopic with some astigmatism. So I still had to finish university. And so I kind of backtracked a little bit when I got back from this study abroad program. I was like super excited to really go further with it, but I had to like wear my glasses a lot for class. And so then I kind of revisited it after I graduated and really dove into it and really continued the process on my own for a little bit for a few years until I kind of hit a wall where I really wasn't seeing as many improvements. So then I wanted to get some professional help. So I actually hired a vision coach to train me and kind of guide me along the process. And her name is Dr. Jerry Ann Tabor. And I really attribute the conclusion of my vision improvement process to her help and guidance. And it really showed me the importance of having some guidance and some coaching, which really like urged me to want to fulfill that role and become a vision teacher like she was. At first, I just wanted to use this stuff to fix my eyesight so I could kind of get back to my life and, follow my dreams I thought I was doing. But then on this journey, I really discovered that this is my purpose and this is my dream to be a vision teacher and help educate people about this. And so, yeah, that was 12, 14 years ago.
14 years ago. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I once I got that improvement and I really felt that calling to be a teacher, I started teaching in 2013. So coming on 10 years of helping people and teaching this. And it's been a lot of fun to like make the YouTube videos and the podcasts. And we even made a documentary about this. So in my book. So I'm really just trying to put out lots of things to, like you said, like raise awareness. And because there's still, I'd say, the minority of people that are aware that this alternative even exists.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I really appreciate that you put so many things out to the world. Yeah. For example, the movie, maybe you want to tell us a little bit more about the movie that you made, how you came to the idea and what's happening in the movie.
Yeah, and that really lined up with you and I meeting up in person at the conference, because we were actually filming the movie while I was there. So it was, the work that you and I do is based on the work of Dr. William Bates, who had this really amazing book that came out in 1920 called The Cure of Imperfect Sight by Treatment Without Glasses, or people just refer to it as Perfect Sight Without Glasses. And it was like 2018, 2019. And I was realizing that, 2020 is coming up, and that's going to be the 100-year anniversary of this book coming out that, I've kind of based my life on. So I really felt like the year 2020 was like pretty special. And I wanted to contribute something into the world that would really celebrate that. Plus it's, in the States with the imperial measuring system, it's, the 2020 vision or the 6.6 in the metric, but it's like, there were all these things like synchronizing up and like, so I was in conversation with my colleague, Barry Ocketel in Australia. And we were just sort of commenting on the fact that yes, there are lots of books in the world about natural vision improvement. There's, I've put out all these YouTube videos, there's podcasts out there, but there isn't really like a film or like a documentary. So it was sort of like this media that hasn't been explored. And so we came up with this plan to essentially like interview other vision teachers and kind of film our journey around the world as we went to go track them down and find them. So luckily at the vision conference in Germany, there were lots of vision teachers all in one place. So I was like, oh, that'll be a great opportunity to get multiple interviews, under the belt there. But we also did some traveling here in the US, out on the West Coast, went to interview Mayor Schneider at his center there in San Francisco. And, we really wanted to convey like a global community. So, because there are vision teachers in many different countries around the world, and we just wanted to really not only let people know that this exists, so it's like an introduction to natural vision improvement, but also convey this sense that there's a growing community of teachers out there, and maybe even someone in your area that you can reach out to and work with.
Because like you said, for me, it's very interesting that so many people don't know about it, what we both teach is the Bates method to improve your eyesight. Maybe at first you want to tell a little bit more about this whole Bates method stuff and natural vision improvement work. So if I don't know anything about the topic yet, what would you tell me about the Bates method? How can I improve my eyesight if I want to start?
Yeah, well, luckily, the reason why I gravitated towards the Bates method was because the more I learned about it, the more sense it made. I really like to see when I explain this to people, a lot of people's response is like, that's common sense, or that makes sense, because we're looking at the eyes like we look at the rest of the body in terms of, what is it made up of? It's this fluid filled, flexible organ surrounded by these powerful muscles. And the muscles obviously are there to help us move our eyes around and look in different directions on a conscious level. So we can, think about, I'm going to look left, and my eyes go left. But what I love about Dr. Bates is he also understood this unconscious aspect of the eye muscles and how they can have this kind of effect on how the eyes focus.
Wow.
Not just the muscles around the eyes, but the muscles inside the eyes, and how the function of the muscles without glasses works a certain way in terms of being kind of a flexible system. But then when we get glasses involved, it really kind of locks it in, or makes it more static or frozen. So I wore glasses from, the age of 7 or 8 up until my 20s. And so my vision, I came to understand my vision as this kind of static, non-changing phenomenon. The only thing that changed was maybe every year or two, it would get a little worse and I would need stronger glasses, because I was just kind of creeping my way up in that strength over time. So what Dr. Bates really proposed is that maybe glasses don't actually truly correct vision. They really are just kind of covering up symptoms and oftentimes leading to the worsening of the vision. And that's the first little statement that's pretty common sense and people can really kind of relate to, because I'd say that more people have experienced that than people who just get one strength glasses and they stay the same for the whole life. That it's like it tends to make it worse. And so Dr. Bates came around and was really wondering, well, maybe there's another way to deal with vision problems that is less about just covering up symptoms, and maybe we can actually get more at the root cause of the problem. And so according to Bates, the inflexibility of the eye strain, these different types of vision problems can actually be traced back to certain mental strains, emotional strains, even certain traumas and things like that. He doesn't talk too much about that in his writings, but we can definitely kind of read between the lines and glean that. But he's very clear about the fact that mental strain, so like stress, worries, anxiety, fears, can have a negative effect on the vision. And not only just in day-to-day life, but think about when you go in for an eye exam. It's like all those things kind of spike. You get that performance anxiety, fear of failure. And what's this going to mean? Am I going to need this surgery? And so even in that environment, when our eyes are being tested, there's a lot of strain and tension there. And then the vision problem actually gets measured as worse than it actually is compared to when you're at home relaxing. And I was even just watching a YouTube video this week of an eye doctor on YouTube giving some tips about how to do an eye exam. Like, what are some important things to remember when you go into your eye doctors? And he's talking about, don't forget to relax and breathe, and don't stress out too hard. Don't squint, all these things that, like, even traditional eye doctors are aware that this could make your vision worse if you do these bad habits in the exam. So what about in just life in general? If like you've got all these bad vision habits where you're squinting and straining and trying really hard, and it's just making it worse. So the short, simple answer is that the Bates method is a form of relaxing into natural clarity, or it's a way from switching from manual focus to autofocus. Because I used to be in manual focus. I would either use artificial lenses, or I would kind of squint my eyes and try and force my eyes to focus. But now when it's time to look at something, I allow the focus to happen on its own, and I stay in a state of relaxation.
Okay.
But it didn't work immediately. Like straining and squinting worked immediately. Like I could squeeze my eyes shut and I could see something clearer. So I was like, oh, I'm going to keep doing that, right? I'm seeing better, right? But then I would relax and it would get blurry again. So that immediate biofeedback was actually confusing, because it's like, well, relaxation just means blur, and I have to actually try to see clearly. But the more I kind of let go of that idea and I kept practicing the relaxation, over time, it did start to happen with these clear flashes coming in, and I would get these moments of focus that would then turn back into blur. So it's this really interesting journey where you adopt the Bates method principles and habits, and then you start to have your own personal experience with what natural clarity looks like and feels like, and also how to kind of maintain it so that it's not so sporadic or temporary, but you can sort of do it more on demand and just kind of allow it to work at all distances.
Yeah, I guess it also has to do with trust. Yeah, that you trust the process. And I think this is one of the things that fascinates me also so much about the Bates method, that we can learn so much for our life with it. For instance, trusting the process or doing things the relaxed way. For me, natural vision improvement and life coaching or go really hand in hand. I don't know, what's your opinion about this?
For sure. I mean, there's definitely, I know when I had vision lessons with my vision teacher, there were some times where it felt more like a vision lesson where we were going through and doing some different practices and playing with the different eye chart techniques and, really going through sort of like an eye yoga class or like a physical therapy class for my eyes and stuff. But there were, I would say there were even more meetings with my vision teacher that were just, it was like talk therapy, where it was just me asking questions, sharing challenges, and this whole emotional aspect. One of the other great things about Dr. Tabor is she doesn't just teach the Bates method. She developed the rapid healing technique, which is a complementary approach to the vision training that helps you actually address some of those underlying root causes. So she actually helped me go back to 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, and actually use the rapid healing technique on some of the suppressed emotions that were sort of in conjunction with my original vision loss in the single digits. So yeah, it's I totally agree with you though, that there are so many parallels between the Bates and the vision principles and like life lessons. And it's so amazing how that works out. And that's why whenever I work with people, they generally comment that, like, I thought this was just going to be about the eyes, but it's actually about my whole body. It's about my whole mind. It's about my whole life.
Yeah, people embark on a life journey. This is something that I also experienced.
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to mention, just in regards to the Bates method, I just wanted to say that I'm really passionate about differentiating the Bates method from eye exercises. Because a lot of times, even if people do become aware of the Bates method, which is a win because people need to know that this exists, but then they'll look it up online and they'll type in the Bates method, and then might see like things saying that it doesn't work or, negative reviews of it. But I want people to know that generally people writing those things didn't do the Bates method. They were doing eye exercises, which are purely physical in nature, and they don't really bring the inner vision into the account. Like my earliest introduction, even before, actually, no, I learned about the Bates method first, but then I learned about the yogic eye movements of looking left and right and up and down, doing the circles and semicircles. And I'm not sure about you, but pretty much that's the most common thing that people tell me when I ask them, like, hey, have you ever tried any kinds of vision practices? And almost everybody says the circles. I do eye circles, eye rolls. And those are great. They feel good. And you are getting a nice range of motion. But what I teach people is how to work on their memory, their imagination, visualizations, doing things with the eyes closed and actually activating this inner clarity. And that's not in the realm of a physical exercise. It's more of a mental kind of training. So yeah, I really want people to be aware that just to make sure people are going down the right track. If they're spending too much time with their eyes open, or if it feels too much like an exercise, or you're just doing push-ups or something like that, that's not how the Bates method works. So it's more about closing the eyes, resting, relaxing, and really working with building the vision on the inside, something for your external vision to be kind of based on.
Yeah, because the vision is what many people don't know. Vision is 80 to 90% mental. And so in the Bates methods, we have so much mental exercises, or we combine the mental and the physical techniques. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe even people listening or watching could even try it out right now, unless, you're driving or, you need to keep your eyes open. But like, if you just close your eyes or even cover them with your palms and you just take a moment to like tune into yourself and kind of see like, what do you see, quote unquote, when your eyes are closed? Because, we all go to sleep at night with our eyes closed in a dark room, and we might actually see things in our dreams or images or movies that play in the mind, memories. So, for a lot of people, they'll close their eyes and nothing's really going on. And sometimes it takes some time to kind of relax into it. If we're still just kind of in a strained place and we close our eyes, the strain affects the inner vision just like it affects the outer vision. But I just like to kind of invite people to spend more time with their eyes closed and actually play with their imagination and kind of, not trying to force it or judge it, but just seeing like what pops into your mind, because your mind likes to play with pictures. But some people are more visual, some people are more auditory, some people are more kinesthetic. So for some people, it's more about closing the eyes and remembering a song or a sound, or the feeling of your cat or your dog as you pet them. So it doesn't just have to be like this perfect inner picture that forms, but you might experience that. And you won't know unless you close your eyes and try. So
Yeah, I feel, I just closed my eyes when you said it, and I feel immediately more relaxed.
awesome. Yeah.
And more flowing. And yeah, maybe you want to show us one other little more technique that you teach in the Bates method. What else?
Yeah. I mean, that one, what we just did, can be done along with palming. So like either just closing your eyes is great, but even with your eyelids down, your eyelids are really thin. So like I'm still experiencing light right now. Like I'm not seeing anything, but my optic nerves are still registering light. So if you have something to really seal the eyes off from any light, then it's kind of a darker canvas, like a black, blank slate. And for me, it just feels like a little bit easier to like work with my imagination when I have less distractions from the outside. So people can definitely kind of do the palming as a way to maybe make that a little bit easier. But what I would really encourage people to do with these mental pictures, what I've been finding has been very effective for people lately, is I've been referring to it as mental depth perception. So when you do have a mental picture in your mind, and maybe like usually the simple example I give people is just the first letter of their name, right? So like if you picture an F with your eyes closed, you want to kind of ask yourself you want to check in with your mental depth perception, meaning if there is a mental F in your mind, do you have a sense of size of the F or a sense of distance of the F?
With me, it's free floating a little bit. It keeps on changing when I have the mental F in my mind.
Yeah. Did it seem like, was it kind of closer to you, kind of farther from you, somewhere in between, or kind of moving?
It was more close to me.
Yeah. And what about size wise, if you had to kind of gauge the height or the width or?
Like this.
Yeah. So the way that it shows up naturally is kind of indicative of your mental comfort zone, of like what your mind likes to bring images up close and maybe make them a certain size. Because historically, with the eyes open, in the case of myopia, that's where things are clearest and easiest to see, is up close and large in size. So if if you're myopic and you want to be seeing more clearly in the distance with the eyes open, we have to start imagining that with the eyes closed, and actually inviting that mental letter to float off, 1 meter, 2 meters, 3 meters away. And what happens to things that go farther from us is they shrink in size too. So if you just try that real quick, if you close and you start with it where it's close and then you send it away.
Yeah. It's possible, but it's a bit bumpy.
Well, you said at first it was kind of fluctuating and kind of floating, and that's the swing. So that we want that, right? We don't want the mental letter to be like static, like it's just motionless, it's just moving away from you. If you can just let it swing or kind of move or float in some way, that generally makes it easier to kind of hold on to it as it goes farther away. For me, if it's just a static thing moving out, it kind of like disappears or just like doesn't really work. But if it's kind of got a little pendulum or a little vibration or a little bounce or something, it's like I can connect with it farther. But did you feel any kind of like strain or any kind of like mental things coming up as it was going away? Because I know for myself, when I do this, when I would first do this, like my heart rate would actually increase, and I would start to get a little like sweaty and like nervous and anxious because I had strain around the distance.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also still a little bit myopic, and I can feel that there is some resistance of letting the letter go far away from me.
Yeah, and you might even notice that every once in a while your mind just kind of pulls it back into the comfort zone. And that might be that resistance feeling of like, I don't like it out here, let's bring it back in. And that might actually be good to let that happen, to kind of like recharge up here, be like, okay, I'm relaxed again, and let's send it back out. But this was a super humbling thing for me, because I understood that, things were blurry in the distance because of my myopia, but I didn't realize that my mind was keeping the myopia there. Like my chart would be across the room, like 10 feet away, but and I really wanted to see it, right? I want to see 2020. But when I would close my eyes and think about the chart, where would my mind bring it? 1 foot. So there was like a really big mismatch between what my eyes were seeing, the distance my eyes were looking at, and the distance my mind was looking at. So if we can actually start to match those up. So if you're nearsighted, maybe start thinking about kind of stretching your mental depth perception off into the distance, picturing farther, smaller details. If you're farsighted, you need reading glasses. You might want to check in. Maybe there's some strain when you think about tiny details up close with your eyes closed.
It's all mental, yeah.
Yeah, so if you can learn how to relax your mind with your eyes closed just by thinking about the distance that you're not seeing clearly, I really think that is getting you to the root cause of the refractive error. Because I was told my myopia was from genetics and from too much near focus. I played too many video games, I read too many books, and I didn't do enough distance seeing. But Dr. Bates actually says that myopia is caused by function, and it's caused specifically by the strain associated with the distance. So it's not from too much near focus. It's from when you look in the distance, you either physically strain your eyes, or there's that mental strain or that mental resistance with the distance. Vice versa with farsightedness. It's not just because you're 45. It's because maybe there's some mental resistance or strain at the near point. Sometimes that one can feel a little bit more physical and age related, but I really like it when people explore the non-physical causes of vision problems, like the mental strain and some of the maybe it's not just the physical number of the age, maybe it's the stress and anxiety of getting older and moving forward in life. So it's like, yeah, so many layers we can kind of peel away. But so yeah, obviously when you asked me that, I really wanted to say sunning because that's like my favorite practice that I still do every day, even though my vision's improved. But you can learn about sunning anywhere. But the more subtle mental depth perception thing, hopefully people can kind of notice some bigger changes by working with the inner level versus just doing physical vision practices. But that being said, I'm a huge lover of the sunning practice and doing the light therapy and getting outside with the eyes closed, letting the sun shine on the eyes. And that's another one of those ones that just can give you pretty fast results and really bring some clear flashes through almost instantly sometimes when you actually decrease the light sensitivity and get that circulation going. So, but yeah, sunning and palming, kind of two sides of the same coin. So when you are doing your sunning, you do want to balance it out with the palming too. So when you're palming, that's when you can be playing with the mental depth perception.
Yeah, so this is also what I like, you can combine techniques, or you can combine it with things that you are doing anyway. When you are meditating, you can incorporate some palming, or when you are doing your walk outside, why not do some sunning? And when you are in general maybe working on stretching out your comfort zone, you can also combine it with stretching out your comfort zone visually.
Totally. Yeah, there's one of those perfect examples there where we were just talking about stretching out our comfort zone, mentally and visually, but then you can also just apply that to your life in general. Where in my life am I staying in my comfort zone, and where could I kind of go beyond that? And because that's really, transformation and improvements and changes don't happen in the comfort zone. They happen outside of the comfort zone. So, but not too far out of the comfort zone. You want to be able to find that sweet spot where you're getting enough challenge, but not so much challenge that it kind of shuts you down or gets in the way.
Yeah, this is the role of weaker transition classes that I'm also talking about with my clients, because for many people it's a big leap to just say, okay, I just go to quit cold turkey and go without my glasses. But there's a way that you can still function in your daily life if you use weaker transition. Maybe you just want to shortly say something about that.
Yeah. I mean, that's another one of those little, not necessarily misconception, because it is what Dr. Bates wrote, but a lot of people kind of take that to the extreme and they think, okay, Bates method must mean cold turkey, quitting cold turkey. Like I can't ever wear glasses. And that's not really the case. Later on in his writings, he does mention that, like, you can use glasses for your vocation or your life in certain times when, to be safe and smart. But he was clear that that is going to slow down your progress. So I was aware of that, and I chose the weaning off option instead of the cold turkey option, even though I knew it was going to maybe take longer. But that being said, I have also met people who have chosen the cold turkey option and it still hasn't worked for them. So like you said, sometimes if it's too big of a leap, you need some stepping stones in between, or like, sometimes I call them like training wheels on the bike. So, but yeah, like, let's say if, this is actually one of the best ways to kind of get people into this stuff, because it doesn't take much on their part. You might have to order some, training glasses online, or you might have to go through your eye doctor, but, compared to like actually learning and studying and implementing the Bates method, which does require time and energy to read and listen. And, it's like learning a new skill. So that's not for everyone. There's people out there who just want to wear the glasses and they don't want to think about all this stuff. But if you can just say, hey, your vision might actually get better year by year by undercorrecting, slightly. Sometimes people call them computer glasses, because when you get glasses for nearsightedness, they're usually for driving or for 20 feet or farther, 6 meters or farther. But the computer screen is much closer than that. So technically, your full strength glasses are overcorrecting for the computer distance, which potentially can make your myopia worse. So if you get a pair of computer glasses, that would be correcting your vision to a shorter distance. Therefore, when you wear them to drive, it wouldn't be sufficient, because it's not going to be as clear out there. So that was another big part of our documentary that I was really happy got conveyed. Was the feedback I got was some people were saying, oh, I never thought about glasses like other parts of my wardrobe. Like, think about how many different pairs of shoes you have, and different articles of clothing, and jewelry, and different outfits, and even for different, sports, you have different equipment for different games and things. But then glasses, you just expect to have the same pair for literally every single activity and light level and distance for everything. Like, I know they make bifocals and trifocals and all these ways to try and get every single little distance, but like, at the end of the day, that it's really just this thing that is, assisting us to become more efficient. So if we drop it down, and we, instead of overcorrect to like 2015 or 2010, we can undercorrect to like 2025, 2030, 2040. And at first, people might be like, oh, well, isn't that going to make my vision worse if my glasses if they're too weak, if they're not strong enough? That's only the case if you strain with them. But if you can wear them and actually stay relaxed, within a pretty short time, the visual system tends to adapt to the new needs. That's what the brain does. It's constantly adapting to the situation. So if you put a full correction in front of the brain, because your eyes are just extensions of the brain, it's going to kind of keep, there's nothing to really adapt to. If anything, it's going to kind of keep adapting in that, oh, we're depending on these stronger and stronger lenses. Versus if there's a little bit of room for improvement, or I don't usually like to say it, but work for the eyes, then it's all of a sudden you're kind of turning the direction around, and you're, instead of getting more and more reliant on them, you're getting less and less reliant on them. And this is all based on one of my earliest students I met, who did this before she even met me. So she was like minus 5.75, and she was friends with her ophthalmologist. So she was just asking, hey, these 5.75s are a little too strong when I'm on my computer. Can you give me a little bit of a weaker pair? So he agreed, since they were friends, and she didn't tell him, but she just wore the weaker glasses all the time. And then a few months later, she went back with the same request, because her vision had adapted. So she said, hey, these computer glasses are now too strong. Can you do that again? Drop it down. And over a period of 5 years, she went down from minus 5.75 to minus 2.75. So, and she didn't do any of the Bates stuff, no vision training, no awareness of, oh, my vision can improve. It was just this interesting phenomenon that she kind of stumbled upon. But then when she learned about the Bates method and started doing training, then it really took off, and she went all the way down to 0.75 in less than a year. So it took her 5 years to go down 3 diopters just by doing the weaker training glasses. And then in less than a year, she was essentially off the glasses. She only used like the 0.75s for like driving at night or a few little things. And she was in her like 60s or 70s. So it really showed me that even without the Bates stuff, even just doing the reduced lenses, and kind of being diligent about that can actually lead to, some positive changes.
Yeah, there's so many different ways and so many different doorways into improving, and everyone can find his or her own way also. But if someone wants to work with you, what are your offerings? How do you help people improve your eyesight? Yeah, maybe you want to tell us about your offerings.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned already, one of my main passions when I first started was to provide lots and lots of free education on this. So a lot of people start off by either watching some of my YouTube videos, like Bates Method 101 videos, or listening to some of my podcasts. So like the Naked Eye podcast or the Better Eyesight podcast. Or like I said, like you mentioned, that the documentary is a really great sort of entry point, not only to me, but lots of other vision teachers. But those are all kind of more passive and just kind of learning and educating. In terms of actually working with me, normally what I do is I have these 6-month vision improvement program groups where I guide a small group of people through 6 months of the vision training. And it's like online and virtual, so it's pretty flexible. I just actually finished one yesterday. It went from September to February. Normally I kind of do them back to back, but I'm actually putting a little pause in between this one and the next one, probably later this year. I do also work with some people individually, one-on-one as well, just meeting up on Zoom. But I also have a self-study program as well. So people who want to just kind of go through it a little bit more solo, but it's like next level compared to like the YouTube videos and the free resources, is the holistic vision program. So that's essentially kind of like the 6-month program, except without a group. And it's just more kind of going through at your own pace and kind of watching the videos and following along to learn it. So yeah, I've created different ways because I know that different people have different learning styles, and some people like to just kind of do it by themselves and follow along. Other people need some guidance and coaching and accountability. So yeah, all those offerings are on my website at integraleyesight.com.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nathan.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was really excited to get your invitation, and once again just really excited to see how you're continuing to pursue this and help people, and because I know you have definitely your own unique and custom spin on this and way to really combine it with the life coaching and really
Exactly, yeah. My approach is also, I like to combine it a lot with general body work and inviting ease into our lives. And as we talked before, my passion now is to bring more the Bates view and the American view on the Bates method to Germany, that I also want to interview other Bates teachers in the US. And but also vision teachers in Germany, and to raise more awareness also in Germany for the Bates method. And I'm excited to continue to work and dive more deep into it. And it's fun to interview people and make videos.
It is, and I think it's a good mission, because I feel like Dr. Bates, so that was a big driver of starting the Better Eyesight podcast, where we actually, kind of similar to the documentary, kind of celebrating this 100-year anniversary. Dr. Bates published magazines every month from 1919 to 1930. And so in 2019, 100 years later, we started the podcast where we just read each month's articles. And this is a way to really bring the original Bates method, all those original writings and perspectives from the 20th century up through into the 21st century, and really make sure, because within 100 years in the grand scheme of things isn't that long that it's been around, but even in 100 years it can definitely get changed or modified, or people can interpret it differently just like with any kind of writing. So it's been a really fun mission to go back and really just compare my understanding to it my understanding of it to Bates's original description of it and see like, oh yeah, that's exactly how I've been doing this, or realizing, oh wow, this is kind of actually a little different. I may have actually not necessarily, gotten off track with it, but everybody who learns the Bates method comes up with their own interpretation of it. And I think that's kind of the beauty of it is
Yeah.
there's so many different people out there that are teaching it. We obviously need more, but as it does grow and we do get more teachers out there, I do think it's going to be important to really be staying true to its original form, because it worked in its original form. So if it's not broke, don't fix it. And so obviously there have been advancements and some amazing things that have come about in the past 100 years that we can obviously add in and supplement. But when you just go back to those original 7 truths of normal sight from Dr. Bates, it's like, that's really all you need. So
Yeah. Yeah, he was a genius for his time.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you, Nathan, once again. I'm looking forward to be in touch in the future. And yeah, thanks for showing up today.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.